The Emperor's beast had killed 8 handlers in 9 months. Then a human walked into its cage with no weapon and called it a good boy. The Imperial Guard discovered Handler Torek's broken body at dawn. What remained of it was barely recognizable. The shadow beast had shredded its reinforced cage as if the alloy were wet parchment, and the handler's final moments had been slow. This marked the 8th death in 9 months. Emperor Vraxian had exhausted every shred of patience. The creature paced its reinforced lair now, a colossal form draped in obsidian scales, eyes like molten brass. It stood nearly 4 meters at the shoulder, sinews coiling like dreadnought cables beneath natural armor. Crystal fangs, each capable of piercing battlecruiser hulls, lined its jaws. Born on a death world where evolution was a war without end, the Umbra beast was a perfect biological weapon. It was meant to be the Emperor's ultimate symbol of galactic supremacy. Instead, it had become his most humiliating failure. Master of Beasts Corvin stood before the obsidian throne with his head low. The veteran had broken war mounts for 4 decades. He had no answer. 12 days, the Emperor said, his voice colder than void space. The Grand Conclave convenes in 12 days. Every major power in the spiral arm will be watching. I promised them a display of imperial might. Instead, I have a creature that annihilates anyone who enters its domain. Sovereign, we have exhausted every method, Corvin replied. Shock conditioning, neural linking, pheromonal suppression. The beast rejects all standard protocols. Perhaps we should terminate it and secure a different specimen for the conclave. The Emperor's talons scraped his throne. Admit weakness? Confess that the Imperium could not master a single animal? No. Find someone who can control this monster, or I will find a new master of beasts. Corvin retreated, dread cinching his chest. No solutions remained. Every galactic expert had already failed. The Umbra beast seemed to grow more violent with every attempt to crush its will. That same afternoon, the diplomatic wing conducted routine orientation tours for newly arrived species representatives. Among them walked a human named Jin, recently assigned as Earth's assistant attaché to Throne Prime. He was too minor to meet the Emperor directly. The palace staff included him only as a formality. Most aliens barely registered him. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, deemed fragile, unremarkable, beneath notice. Jin had never wanted this post. Back on Earth, he'd been a veterinarian in Busan, treating everything from anxious lapdogs to injured zoo predators. When the Global Council selected him for off-world service, refusal was impossible. Your linguistics and animal experience make you valuable for diplomacy, they said. Mostly, he just felt lost among beings who viewed his entire species as irrelevant. The tour guide, a board functionary named Xylak, herded the group through the palace menagerie. Creatures from 100 worlds paced behind barriers, each more terrifying than the last. The guide barely paused at most enclosures, rushing through his script. But when they reached the Umbra beast's containment zone, he stopped cold. The Emperor's personal war beast, Xylak announced. The deadliest predator ever captured alive. It has killed 8 handlers. It remains untamed. Through quadruple reinforced energy shields, Jin could see it. The creature paced the same tight loop over and over. Its tail gouged deep furrows into armored walls. Every few heartbeats, it charged the barriers, testing, probing for weakness. The other diplomats murmured appropriate fear and awe. Jin watched with different eyes. He saw the pattern in its pacing. He noticed how its pupils remained fully dilated despite the harsh lights. He observed how it flinched at sudden echoes, how it kept its back to the wall. It's terrified, Jin said softly. Xylak turned, confused. What did you say, human? The beast. It's not aggressive. It's afraid. Several diplomats laughed. The guide's expression curdled with contempt. Afraid? It has killed 8 trained handlers. It attacks everything that enters its chamber. Because it's defending itself, Jin insisted. He pointed. Look at its posture. That's fear response, not hunting behavior. Something has deeply traumatized it. Before Xylak could retort, Alarms blared across the facility. The Umbra beast had somehow degraded its containment field. Sparks erupted from control panels as the creature rammed the weakening barriers. Palace guards sprinted into position, weapons hot. "Evacuate immediately!" Xylax shouted, herding diplomats toward exits. Jin moved closer to the observation window, studying the beast. Fresh wounds wept beneath its scales. Burns from shock prods. Older scars crisscrossed its hide. This creature had been hurt repeatedly by those meant to train it. No wonder it attacked anyone who came near. Terrified is not the same as vicious. Corvin arrived with a squad of handlers carrying neural whips and tranquilizer cannons. "Stand back," the Master of Beasts ordered. "We must sedate it before it breaks free." "You'll only make it worse," Jin said. Corvin glared. "Who are you to question Imperial beast-handling doctrine?" "Someone who actually understands animals." Jin surprised himself with his boldness. "You're using pain to control it. That's why it keeps fighting back. You're reinforcing its terror." "Ridiculous. Fear is the foundation of all beast training. The creature must know its place." "Then why hasn't it worked?" Jin challenged. 8 dead handlers. 9 months of failure. Your methods aren't working. The containment field flickered again. The Umbra beast roared, a sound that rattled bones. It was seconds from breaking through. Guards charged their weapons, ready to kill if needed. "Let me try," Jin heard himself say. The room went silent. Corvin stared as if Jin had lost his mind. "You want to enter that enclosure? Give me 10 minutes alone with it. No weapons, no pain devices. Just me and the beast. It will kill you in seconds, human." "Maybe. But if I'm right, I can calm it. If I'm wrong, you lose 1 minor diplomat instead of your Emperor's prize war beast. Either way, you come out ahead." Corvin considered. The human had a point. Better to lose 1 foolish alien than destroy the Umbra beast and face the Emperor's wrath. And if the human somehow succeeded, Corvin could claim credit for the innovative approach. "Very well. But we do this properly. The Emperor must approve such foolishness." Within the hour, Jin stood before Emperor Vraxian himself. The throne room brimmed with curious courtiers, all eager to see whether the human would be permitted his suicidal request. The Emperor regarded Jin like one might examine an unusual insect. "You believe you can tame my Umbra beast?" the Emperor asked. "I believe I can help it." "Help it." The Emperor's laugh was unkind. "It is a weapon, human, a symbol of power. It does not need help." "With respect, Your Majesty, it needs help very badly. Otherwise it wouldn't keep killing people." The courtiers gasped. One did not speak so directly to the Emperor, but Vraxian seemed amused rather than enraged. "Very well, human. 10 minutes in the enclosure. No weapons, no protection. If you succeed, you will have earned my attention. If you fail, you will be just another creature that underestimated the Umbra beast's fury. Either way, I will be entertained." Jin bowed, heart pounding. What had he just agreed to? An hour later, he stood at the entrance to the Umbra beast's lair. Through the energy field, he could see the massive predator watching him with those molten brass eyes. It knew he was coming. It was waiting. The guard at the control panel looked at Jin with pity. "Any last words, human?" Jin thought of his clinic in Busan. Of all the frightened animals he had helped over the years. He thought of his grandmother, who had taught him that gentleness was not weakness. "Just open the door," he said. The energy field dropped. The Umbra beast roared, and Jin walked inside. The roar shook the reinforced walls. In the observation gallery above, every dignitary and guard expected to see Jin die within seconds. Emperor Vraxian leaned forward on his throne, curious how quickly the foolish human would fall, but Jin did not charge forward. He did not posture or try to appear dominant. Instead, he did something that baffled everyone watching. He sat down. Right there, just inside the entrance. Jin lowered himself cross-legged to the floor. He did not make eye contact with the beast. He did not speak the imperial common tongue. Instead, he began talking quietly in Korean, his native language. "Gwenchana," he said softly. "It's okay. No one is going to hurt you." The Umbra beast stopped mid-roar, confused. Every handler before had come at it with weapons, with pain, with dominance displays. This small creature was just sitting there, not even looking directly at it. The beast's instinct screamed trap. It snarled, lowered its head, prepared to charge. Jin kept talking, voice steady and calm. "I know you're scared. I know they hurt you. But I'm not here to hurt you. I promise." Minutes passed. The Umbra beast paced, never taking its eyes off the human. It would move closer, then retreat, testing, waiting for the trap to spring. But Jin just sat there, occasionally glancing at the beast from the corner of his eye, never staring directly. In the observation gallery, Corvin shook his head. The human wastes time with talking. The creature does not understand words. But Emperor Vraxion held up a hand for silence. "Look at the beast's posture. It has not attacked." True. 5 minutes had passed and the Umbra beast had not charged. It was still defensive, still aggressive, but it had not tried to kill the human. This was already longer than any previous handler had survived in direct contact. Jin slowly reached into his pocket. Guards raised their weapons, but he only pulled out a piece of dried meat from his lunch ration. Moving very slowly, telegraphing every motion, he tossed the food toward the Umbra beast. Not at it, near it. An offering, not a challenge. The beast sniffed the air, then the meat. It was hungry. The handlers had been withholding food to make it more compliant. Another failed control tactic. The Umbra beast snatched up the meat and retreated to its corner, watching Jin warily. Jin tossed another piece, this one not quite as far, then another, gradually creating a trail. Each time the beast had to come a little closer to get the food. Each time, Jin remained calm and non-threatening. "Slowly," he murmured. "That's it. You're doing great." 30 minutes passed. Then an hour. The observers began whispering among themselves. This was unprecedented. The human was still alive, and the beast seemed to be calming down. Its pacing had stopped. Its pupils were no longer fully dilated with fear and rage. Jin could see the wounds now up close. Burns from shock weapons covered the beast's hide. Infected areas where scales had been damaged, never properly treated. Fresh injuries overlapped old scars. This creature had been tortured in the name of training. "Aputa," Jin said gently. "I know it hurts. Let me help you." Very slowly he extended his hand, palm down, fingers relaxed, not reaching for the beast, just offering his scent, a technique he'd used with frightened dogs and aggressive zoo animals back on Earth. Let them come to you. Let them make the choice. The Umbra beast's nostrils flared, taking in the human smell. It had never encountered a human before. This creature smelled different from the handlers. No fear stink, no aggression pheromones, just calm steadiness. The beast took one step closer, then another. Jin held perfectly still, hand extended, barely breathing, the massive head lowered close enough that he could feel the heat of its breath. One snap of those jaws and he would be dead. The Umbra beast's nose touched his palm. Jin felt the leathery texture of its snout, hot, dry. He did not pull away. He did not make any sudden movements. And then, very carefully, he let his fingers gently stroke the side of the beast's jaw. "Good," he whispered. "That's so good. You're being so brave." And then, almost without thinking, he said the words that would change everything. Words he had spoken to 1,000 frightened animals in his career. Words that carried the weight of genuine affection. "Jal haeseo," he said in Korean, then repeated in the common tongue so the observers could hear. "Who's a good boy?" The Umbra beast went utterly still. No one had ever called it good before. No one had ever touched it without causing pain. This small, weak creature was petting it, speaking to it with kindness in his voice, treating it like something valuable instead of something to be broken. The massive beast did something it had never done in captivity, It lowered its head further, pressing gently against Jin's chest, and closed its eyes. Absolute silence reigned in the observation gallery. Emperor Vraxian stood up from his throne, unable to believe what he was seeing. Corvin's face had gone pale. The most dangerous predator in Imperial custody was nuzzling against a human like a domesticated pet. Jin kept his movements slow and careful. He examined the wounds he could see, noting which looked infected, which were causing the most pain. The beast allowed this, trusting this strange, gentle creature in a way it had never trusted anyone before. "I'm going to help you," Jin promised. "But I need medical supplies, and I need them to stop hurting you. Can you trust me to come back?" The Umbra beast did not understand the specific words, but it understood tone. It understood that this creature meant it no harm. When Jin stood up and walked toward the exit, the beast did not attack. It watched him go with those molten brass eyes, and something in its expression had changed forever. The energy field closed behind Jin. He was trembling now that the adrenaline was fading, but he stood straight as he faced the Emperor. "The beast is not vicious," Jin said clearly. "It's traumatized. Your handlers used pain-based training on a creature intelligent enough to remember every instance of torture. It learned that all authority figures mean pain, so it defends itself. Give me proper medical supplies in 1 week, and I can prove that cooperation works better than coercion." Emperor Vraxion studied the human for a long moment. This small, weak-looking creature had just accomplished what the galaxy's best beastmasters could not. It was either brilliant or insane, possibly both. "You will have your week," the Emperor decided. "Corvin, assign this human quarters adjacent to the beast's enclosure. Provide him with whatever medical supplies he requests. If the human succeeds, we will present his methods at the Grand Conclave. If he fails," the Emperor's smile showed many sharp teeth, "we will need a new human attaché." Jin bowed. "Thank you, Your Majesty, but I have one more request." The court held its collective breath. The human dared to ask for more. "I need to give the beast a name. You can't build trust with something you only see as a weapon. It needs to know it's an individual, not just a tool." The Emperor considered this strange human logic. "Very well. What will you call my Umbra beast?" Jin thought for a moment, then smiled. "Duri. It means two in my language, because it has 2 hearts, and because everyone deserves a second chance." That night, Jin moved into small quarters that connected directly to Duri's enclosure. Through the transparent wall, he could see the massive beast watching him arrange his belongings. When he settled down to sleep, Duri lay down as well, mirroring his position. For the first time since its capture, the Umbra beast slept peacefully, and in his quarters, Jin smiled. This was going to work. Morning came to Throne Prime with 3 suns rising over the palace towers. Jin woke to find Duri already awake, watching him. The massive beast's tail swayed slightly, a gesture Jin had learned to recognize as cautious interest rather than aggression. "Good morning, Duri," Jin said, stretching. The Umbra beast's ears perked up at its name. It was learning that the sounds this human made had meaning, that some of them were specifically for it. Over the following days, Jin entered the enclosure with medical kits and food. He worked slowly, letting Duri sniff each instrument before using it. When he applied antiseptic to the worst wounds, the beast flinched, but did not pull away. It trusted him enough to endure temporary pain for long-term relief. Other humans stationed on Throne Prime came to observe. May, an engineer who maintained palace life support, pressed against the observation window with wide eyes. "Is that really an Umbra beast? The one that killed all those handlers?" "His name is Duri," Jin corrected, not looking away. "And yes, he just needed someone to treat him properly." Word spread quickly through the small Earth delegation. By midday, Lena, a xenobiologist studying alien ecosystems, had joined May at the window. They watched as Jin played with Duri using a reinforced ball, engaging the beast's natural hunting instincts in a controlled, positive way. "This is incredible," Lena breathed. He's using classical conditioning and positive reinforcement. I didn't think it would work on something so aggressive. Dury was never aggressive, Jin called out, having heard her through the speakers. He was defensive, there's a difference. The two women looked at each other, then at their fellow human working fearlessly, alongside a creature that terrified the entire Imperial court. Pride swelled in their chests. Maybe Earth was not as insignificant as the galaxy thought, but not everyone was pleased with Jin's progress. Corvin watched from his office with growing resentment. The Master of Beasts had built his entire reputation on traditional Imperial methods: pain, fear, absolute dominance. If this human succeeded with gentleness, it would make Corvin look like a fool. Worse, it might lead others to question the methods he had used for 40 years. On the third day, Corvin petitioned Emperor Vraxion directly. Sovereign, I must advise against this human's continued involvement with your war beast. His methods are making the creature soft. A war beast must be fierce, must be feared. This human treats it like a pet. And yet the creature obeys him, the Emperor pointed out. It has not killed him. It allows him to tend its wounds. It even plays with him, I am told. Exactly my concern, sire. The Umbra beast is meant to strike terror into your enemies. What will they think if they see it acting gentle? It undermines Imperial strength. The Emperor leaned back, considering. You raise a valid point, Corvin. Very well. 5 days remain before the Grand Conclave. I will require a demonstration. The human must prove that his methods have not weakened the beast. Dury must perform combat maneuvers before the Imperial Council. If it fails, the human will be removed, and you will resume training with traditional methods. Corvin bowed deeper to hide his smile. A wise decision, my lord. I am certain the test will reveal the flaws in the human approach. When Jin learned of the test, anxiety knotted his stomach. Combat maneuvers meant complex commands, aggressive displays, precision movements. He had only been working with Dury for 3 days. Was that enough time? May and Lena visited that evening, bringing food from the human section of the palace kitchens. You can do this, May said confidently. We've been watching. Dury trusts you completely. Trust isn't the problem, Jin replied, absently petting Dury's massive head. The beast had its chin resting on his lap. The problem is that I don't know what the Imperial Council expects. What if they want him to attack something? I've been teaching him not to attack. Lena pulled up a datapad. I researched typical war beast demonstrations. They want to see controlled aggression, response to commands, and protective behavior. The beast should defend its handler, while also obeying orders to stand down. Protective behavior. Jin looked down at Dury. You'd protect me, wouldn't you, boy? Dury's tail thumped against the floor. A gesture Jin had learned meant contentment. For the next 2 days, Jin worked intensively with Dury. He taught commands using hand signals and specific Korean words, reinforcing each successful response with treats and praise. He introduced mock threats using training drones, teaching Dury to distinguish between actual danger and harmless stimuli. Most importantly, he taught the stand-down command, a way to call off Dury's defensive responses instantly. The beast learned with surprising speed. Umbra beasts were intelligent, Jin discovered. They had simply never been trained with methods that respected that intelligence. Every handler before had assumed the creatures were too savage to learn anything except through pain. On the 5th day, Jin felt almost ready. Dury could perform most of what would be required. But the Imperial Council would be a strange environment, full of unfamiliar scents and sounds. Would Dury remain focused? Would the bond they had built hold under pressure? That night, as Jin tried to sleep, he heard movement in the enclosure. Dury had approached the transparent wall, pressing close to where Jin lay. The massive beast settled down, positioning itself so that only the wall separated them. A guardian, Jin realized. Dury was guarding him while he slept. The thought brought tears to his eyes. This creature, tortured, traumatized, had learned to trust again. But what Jin did not know was that Corvin had no intention of letting the demonstration proceed fairly. That same night, the Master of Beasts visited the food preparation area where Dury's meals were stored. From a concealed container, he produced a small vial of pale powder. a stimulant commonly used to agitate war beasts before battle. In controlled doses, it increased aggression and fighting spirit. In larger doses, it caused uncontrollable rage and violent behavior. The substance was banned for use in demonstrations precisely because it made creatures unpredictable and dangerous. Corvin measured out 3 times the normal dosage and mixed it into Dury's morning meal. The timing was perfect. The drug would take effect just as the demonstration began. The beast would rampage, attack anything near it, possibly even the human who had tamed it. The Emperor would see that trust-based methods were fatally flawed. The human would be discredited, likely killed, and Corvin's traditional approach would be vindicated. The morning of the demonstration arrived. Jin woke with nervous energy. Dury seemed calm, even eager. Jin fed him the prepared meal, noticing nothing amiss. The food was slightly different than usual, but he assumed the palace kitchens had simply provided a special ration for demonstration day. As they walked toward the Imperial Amphitheater, Jin practiced the commands one more time. Dury responded perfectly, ears alert, focused entirely on his handler. May and Lena waited at the entrance, offering encouragement. "You've got this. Show them what Earth can do." The amphitheater was filled with hundreds of alien dignitaries, all the most important members of the Imperial Council. Emperor Vraxion sat in the central box, flanked by advisors. Corvin stood nearby, expression carefully neutral. Jin led Dury into the arena. The crowd murmured with anticipation. This was the beast that had killed 8 handlers, now walking calmly beside a human half its size. What none of them could see was the drug beginning to work in Dury's system. The chemical rage slowly building in the beast's blood. The demonstration was about to go very, very wrong. The Imperial Amphitheater fell silent as Jin and Dury entered the arena floor. Thousands of eyes watched from tiered seating, representatives from hundreds of species across the galaxy. The Grand Conclave had officially begun, and this demonstration was the opening spectacle. Emperor Vraxion had promised them a display of imperial power. Instead, they saw a human walking calmly beside the most dangerous predator in known space. Jin felt the weight of all those stares. His heart hammered, but he kept his breathing steady. Dury needed him to be calm. He glanced at the massive beast beside him and saw something that made him frown. Dury's pupils were starting to dilate. His breathing seemed faster than normal. "Gwenchana?" Jin asked quietly in Korean. "You okay, boy?" Dury's tail lashed once, a sharp movement unlike his usual calm swaying. Something was wrong. The beast was agitated, and Jin could not understand why. They had practiced this. Dury had been perfectly calm just minutes ago. From the Emperor's box, an announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "Citizens of the Imperium and honored guests, witness the power of Throne Prime. The Umbra beast, tamed by human methods, will now demonstrate its combat capabilities." Jin raised his hand, the signal for Dury to perform the first maneuver. The beast was supposed to circle him in a protective pattern. Instead, Dury took a stumbling step, shaking his massive head as if trying to clear it. In the viewing boxes, Corvin leaned forward, watching intently. The drug was taking effect faster than he had expected. "Perfect. Dury Dala," Jin said firmly, giving the command again. "Circle." The beast tried to obey. It truly tried. But the chemical rage flooding its system was overwhelming its trained responses. Dury's vision was turning red at the edges. His muscles tensed with artificial aggression. Every instinct screamed at him to attack. The beast roared suddenly, a sound of confusion and pain. The audience gasped. This was not part of the demonstration. "Dury." Jin's voice was sharp now, commanding, "Anja, sit." But Dury could not sit. The drug had fully activated, overriding conscious thought. The beast's eyes locked onto the nearest box of dignitaries, ambassadors from the Kelvic sovereignty. Prey. The drug told Dury these were prey. The Umbra beast charged. Screams erupted throughout the amphitheater. Dignitaries scrambled for exits. Palace guards rushed forward, weapons powering up. In the Emperor's box, Vraxion stood, expression dark with fury. This was exactly the disaster he had feared. "Kill it!" Corvin shouted, his voice carrying across the arena. The beast has gone mad. Protect the ambassadors. Energy weapons whined to life. A dozen guards took aim at Dury, ready to cut the rampaging beast down. The first shots fired, burning into Dury's armored hide. The pain only drove the beast into greater frenzy. And that was when Jin did something that everyone later agreed was either the bravest or most foolish act they had ever witnessed. He ran toward the rampaging Umbra beast, not away from it, toward it. Dury, Anyeo, he shouted, voice cutting through chaos. No, Dury, stop. He threw himself between the charging beast and the diplomatic boxes, arms spread wide. Dury was moving at full speed, unstoppable momentum carrying him forward. The humans in the audience, May and Lena, screamed Jin's name. This was suicide. The beast would crush him, tear him apart, not even notice as it trampled him. But then Dury heard his name. Through the drug-induced haze, through the chemical rage forcing him to attack, the beast heard that one word. That specific sound that meant he was not just a weapon, not just a monster, but an individual. A good boy. The massive creature tried to stop, claws digging furrows in the arena floor. He was only meters away from Jin now, too close, too much momentum. Jin did not flinch. He stood his ground and said the words that had started everything. The words he had spoken during that first meeting, when he had shown Dury that kindness existed in the universe. Jal Heseo, he said, voice somehow steady despite his terror. Who's a good boy? Time seemed to slow. Dury's molten brass eyes met Jin's. In that moment, the beast had a choice. The drug demanded violence. Every chemical signal screamed to attack. But deeper than the drug, deeper than the artificial rage, was something the Umbra beast had never experienced before in its life. Trust. Love. The knowledge that this small, fragile creature cared about it. Strength is having the power to destroy and choosing not to. The Umbra beast fought, not against Jin but against itself, against the poison in its veins. It was the hardest battle Dury had ever fought, harder than any combat on the Death World where he had been captured. A war inside his own mind. The arena held its breath. Dury's massive head lowered, coming to rest against Jin's chest. The beast trembled violently, every muscle straining. But he did not attack. He chose Jin over the rage. He chose trust over violence. The beast's legs gave out, and he collapsed at Jin's feet. Absolute silence filled the amphitheater. 10,000 beings stared in disbelief at what they had just witnessed. A creature bred for killing, drugged into madness, had stopped itself from attacking through sheer force of will. For a human. Jin dropped to his knees beside Dury, running his hands over the trembling beast. Naomu Jal Heseo, he whispered, tears streaming. You did so well. I'm so proud of you. Emperor Vraxian descended from his box, walking across the arena floor with measured steps. His expression was unreadable. When he reached Jin and Dury, he gestured for a medical team to approach. Scan the beast. I want to know why it behaved that way. The medical technician ran scanners over Dury's body. Within moments, his face went pale. Sovereign, there are high levels of rage stimulants in the creature's bloodstream. Someone drugged him. The Emperor's eyes narrowed dangerously. Who had access to the beast's food? All eyes turned to Corvin. The Master of Beasts tried to maintain his composure, but guilt was written across his face. He had not expected the drug to be detected. He had not expected the human to survive. Corvin. The Emperor's voice was ice and steel. Did you sabotage this demonstration? The old handler knew he was caught. He could lie, but the evidence was clear. Instead, he chose defiance. I did what was necessary to preserve Imperial strength. This human's methods make us weak. A war beast should be feared, not loved. Pain and dominance have served the Imperium for millennia. We cannot abandon our ways for the soft sentimentality of a species that has barely left their own world. You endangered my guests, the Emperor said quietly, deadly quiet. You sabotaged my demonstration. You nearly caused a diplomatic incident that could have shattered the Grand Conclave before it began. And worst of all, you proved yourself wrong. Corvin blinked. My lord? Look at the beast. Emperor Vraxian pointed at Dury, still collapsed beside Jin. You drugged it with enough stimulants to drive 3 Umbra beasts into frenzy, yet it stopped. Not because of pain, not because of fear, but because of the bond this human built with it. Your methods broke its body and spirit. His methods gave it a reason to fight its own nature. The Emperor turned to face the assembled dignitaries. Let this be a lesson to all who witness. True strength is not forcing something to obey through pain. True strength is earning such loyalty that a creature will battle its own drugged mind to protect that bond. He looked down at Jin, still kneeling beside Dury. Human, you spoke of giving the beast a second chance. I now see that you have given the Imperium something far more valuable. You have shown us that there is strength in compassion. That partnership can achieve what domination cannot. The Emperor's voice rang across the silent amphitheater. Corvin, you are hereby stripped of your rank and position. You will be escorted from the palace and banned from any work involving beast handling. As for you, Jin of Earth, I name you Chief Handler of Imperial Beasts. You will reform our training programs. Teach your methods to those who wish to learn them. Your species may be new to our galaxy, but you have much to teach us. Corvin was led away by guards, face twisted with bitterness. The assembled dignitaries began murmuring among themselves, processing what they had witnessed. Many were already calculating how to request human handlers for their own worlds. May and Lena rushed down from the stands, embracing Jin as medical teams began treating Dury's wounds and purging the drugs from his system. The humans held each other, crying and laughing at the same time. They had come to the palace as minor representatives of an insignificant world. Now Earth's gentle approach to the galaxy's hardest problems had earned them respect they never imagined possible. As consciousness slowly returned to Dury, the beast's eyes opened to find Jin still beside him. Despite the pain, despite the lingering drug effects, Dury's tail managed a weak thump against the ground. Good boy, the gesture said. Am I still a good boy? Jin smiled through his tears and scratched behind Dury's armored ears. You're still good, Dury. 3 months later, the beast that had killed 8 handlers was calmly lowering its head for new trainees. And every time it did, people remembered the human who walked into a death cage with no weapon and walked out with its trust.